Okay. Ugh. Alrighty, hello everybody. Hello everybody out there in internet land. How goes it? How goes your Sunday? Hopefully there's no grease or gas fires. Alrighty, Ghostly and Opresoria. How goes it? How is life? How goes the Sunday? I slept in so late today. I'm very behind. How does Twilight feel today? Twilight feels tired. Still tired, but I slept in, so I feel a little bit more rested than usual. So that's good. So I'll take that, but I can tell I'm still cognitively not super back to form, but we're getting there. Slowly getting there. Pour my tea. Ghostly slept 12 hours last night. It was amazing and awful. Oh man, yeah. Some of those days, anytime I go from not sleeping to suddenly sleeping a ton, I feel like it's great, but I also wake up feeling terrible. If I ever sleep over like 9 hours, I don't know why I never wake up feeling totally great from that. Yeah, I know, Opresoria, you've been going through it. I feel like I'm on the world's worst roller coaster, and I really love to get off it. Thanks. Yeah, I know. Opresoria is having a tough go of things. But hopefully they're able to get all that stuff straightened away soonish, and then you can feel better. Oh yeah, yep. But I finished the pitch deck. Well, at least the text part of the pitch deck for the folk horror film Blue Devils last night, and immediately I think it's so much of it's gonna have to be rewritten. So I'm not feeling super great about that. I know I sent it off to a reader, and they were just like, "I have lots of questions about this," and I was like, "Oh shit, okay." So I did not do a good job of writing a compelling synopsis for that story, which makes sense. It's a very non-traditional story, so I'm forcing myself to just let it rest and move on to work on some other things, so I'm not frustrated by it anymore. Because I've really struggled with that one, trying to make sure it works, and it's clearly not working. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm sure it'll be over soon. we hope, Opresoria, we hope. But I got some exciting, got some ideas kind of plopped down, so I'm excited about some of the things to work on. I've got 2 scripts I'm prepping to start working on, but there's some other I want to get there's a short film that's kind of starting to come together I want to get written. Also, my film got its first rejection from a film festival the other day, which I knew was going to happen. Like, you're not going to get into all of them, but I definitely was just like, time to start making another short film, because this one's clearly not going to play anywhere. But we'll see. It was just one of the 8 that it got submitted to, and I'm not expecting to get into every single one. I'm hoping for two or 3 festivals. I'm sorry why that I can't imagine. Synopses are so rough. It's the pitch part of it that makes it really hard. It's the selling it, like selling the idea. Really, what you're doing is you're trying to sell people on reading the script. I'm trying to sell people on reading the script and looking at the storyboards to then try to sell it as a project. And that's particularly with that project. It's written in a odd way. It's not a traditional structural narrative, and it's not like a traditional horror narrative either. It's very unique. It's kind of a hangout movie. It's kind of like we hang out in a town with these characters, but there's clearly like this horror element that's building and building. So it's not like a thing. It's not like there are no sequences in the script where people are chased through the woods by a monster. Like, I specifically tried to not do that, like subvert that and do a different type of horror, which, interestingly enough, as interesting as that might be, it makes it very hard to write like a synopsis that people can wrap their heads around that makes it also feel compelling. And that's kind of the why that project specifically is so difficult. It's also the script that people, even when they read it, tend to bounce off of more than my other scripts, because they're kind of trying to wrap their head around what I'm doing. And I mean, I'm not even saying that what I'm doing is working. I'm more confident in it than clearly other people are. It's a very visual film. It's a very vibes-based movie. It's very Lynchian in that way. So it's not strictly telling its story through the narrative. So through like the what happens and why like it happens, it's like there's a lot of visual ideas in it and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's a tirade about that project. It's a project I've been rewriting and workshopping that script for 2.5 years now. But it's a script that's very near and dear to my heart because it's about small town Wyoming, Colorado, nihilism in the heart of America, the despair and alcoholism that you tend to see in these cultures, and like the sort of affirmative despair that people have, the sort of like mythologizing their own misery. And I kind of obviously pull out like assumptions about where particularly their politics and their just general disdain for people comes from, out of that sort of misery. So it's a movie that's near and dear to my heart because I'm close to people like that, and it's very reminiscent of where I come from. So, but I understand why it's a hard sell. Anyway, tirade aside, I can imagine take a break and maybe come back from another. That's what I think I'm gonna do, Ghostly. That's why I'm kind of like I'm gonna let people give me feedback, and I'm just gonna kind of let it sit. It's kind of like what I'm doing with Lone Star, where I'm just kind of letting that sit, and then I'm gonna come back to it, and probably come back to it from a different angle, particularly on the second half of the story. That sucks. Why the G's, you poor peoples. Hug virtual hugs around. It's fun. It is. This is life. This is all life. It's not that bad. It's just life. It sounds fascinating. I bet it's great, even though I can't read it. I know it's too bad, Ghostly. It's maybe someday, but I think it's gonna hit. It's gonna be too. It might be too hard for you. I don't know. I don't think that one might just never be a Ghostly script, unfortunately. But it's a hard movie, very Faulkner. It does reek of Faulkner vibes. It's definitely like the character study. It's obviously it doesn't take place in the South. It takes place in the sort of the Rockies West, but it's in terms of the way I approach the material. It's very Faulkner-esque. It's Faulkner-esque with monsters, essentially. Deep character studies with surreal visuals and monster, and there is an actual monster. There's 2 monsters in it, really. Virgil. I know. I do look forward to all the fan fiction that I'm sure will be coming in the future due to Virgil. Oh, Virgil. I'm sorry, I'm built like a wet noodle. Don't never apologize. Never apologize for your dispositions, Ghostly. Don't ever apologize for that. Yeah, and that's kind of, and to be honest, Ghostly, a lot of the monsters in that script are not. They're not the real monsters. Yeah, I definitely am on. It's on the same. It's on the same. It's in the same world as that, where the monsters I'm pointing fingers at, and the way I'm exploring them is definitely that men are the monsters, that people are the monsters, and that the monsters are just either expressions or something utterly other than that. It's actually where I really enjoy like expressions or like artistic interpretations of the divine as being utterly alien and sometimes monstrous and disturbing. And I really enjoy that. So oftentimes, usually when I have like really alien or strange or surreal creatures, they usually aren't bad. They're not good. They're kind of beyond good and evil in a way. They're just this other thing that exists. Is generally how I approach monsters, or at least creatures, I guess. Usually, if I start applying a sort of ethical treatment to things like good or bad or anything like that, it's usually in regards to people. Ghostly speaks as an expert as though she had just read one short story. Oh yeah. Geez, you're fine, Ghostly. I know what you're saying. New word, shori. Yeah, a short story. Yeah, you've canned it. You've created a portmanteau of it. You took two short words and put them together into an even shorter word and made a portmanteau of it. So there you go. Well done, Ghostly. But no, I got what you I got what you're saying. Yeah. If you wanna do a read on stream, we can do that. Yep. I was planning on doing 3 or 4 sprints today anyway, so maybe I'll do get like one writing sprint in at the end of the day at least. But yeah, we'll do 2 sprints of your story. All right. Let me open Discord. Let me find Discord first, and then open Discord. You might have to re-drop the link, Ghostly, to the story. Also, so I can remember what chapter we're on. Oh, there we go. All right, gotcha. Thank you, Ghostly. It has been done. All right. Where are you going? Oh, there you go. There we go. Okay. All right, where are we at? How many chapters do we have, Ghostly? What chapter were we on? Looks like it was rather long. That we'll do both. That's fine. We generally do both. So are we at the end? Okay. Okay, 8. All right. We'll do both. I generally do 2 chapters every time we do this. So, okay. All right. So there's 8, and then 9. Okay, yeah, that's pretty long. Okay. Well, we'll definitely do 8, and then we'll see how far we get through 9. I have a feeling we'll be able to get through 9. I'm pretty sure. Okay. All right. Ba-boom, ba-boom. Yeah, we'll see if we can get through it, but I'm guessing we'll be able to. Let me mark this as complete so I don't forget all this stuff. Yeah, let's do ads now. And then we'll just jump into it early. All right. Okay. All right. Let me get my voice. A rude awakening and mystery abounds. Yep. Okay. All right. Bum 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 bum. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's a very short chapter. That's a Princess Bride chapter, Ghostly. There's a really funny story about William Goldman writing chapters, making sure chapters are short like that to make it seem like the book is longer than it actually is, even though he specifically wrote it short because he knows producers don't like to read. The way that he engineered getting The Princess Bride made is really funny. The whole structure of the way that the novel Princess Bride is written, he wrote it to get the movie made, and it was made to, like, he did it to, like, crack how hard it was to get people to read his stuff in Hollywood. Very funny. There's a great documentary. Maybe we'll do a watch of the documentary on the Discord or something like that, but it's about writers. It's about, like, showrunners and writers in Hollywood. There's a couple of great interview bits with William Goldman in there where he specifically talks about how he got The Princess Bride sold. Ghostly times are chapters by what feels like natural scene breaks. I wish I could keep it short. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. This is not a thing. He was doing it for other reasons. If you're just doing it for a story, I wouldn't worry about it. And I could see that you had breaks in your chapter, which is what a lot of people do when they have long chapters. Alright, let me double check the tea situation here. We've got ads rolling. Okay, I'm gonna step away really close. I'm gonna step away really close. I'm gonna step away for a short sec, and then we're gonna come back, and then we're going to dive into the story. Oh, right. Oh, thank you, Opresoria. Look at him, Parrot. Look at that. I know, you will always be the longest, Opresoria. You're Opresoria, it's a point of pride for Opresoria at this point. Okay. Oh yeah, we need to, at some point, we need to bug Opresoria, too, about adding that quote from yesterday. I did write the quote down in the context about Princess Bride. Wait, where did I put it? I know Oizel had to save it because we were all about to move past it. You forgot about your sub, LOL. Yeah. It announced. I think this might be the only community where Opresoria's subs get announced, because I know Opresoria likes to keep that stuff quiet. But Opresoria is also the oldest, and gets to play by different rules. So, where the hell did I put that? I swear to God, I wrote that down. Where did I write that? Or no, wait, did I put that in? You know what? I put that in. Where did I put that? Oh yeah, I put it in quotes. Here we go. Okay. I do. I don't like. I know you don't like the attention. All right. Oh yeah, here it is. Yes, this was the quote, Opresoria. That was the quote that apparently I said that then got pulled out. All right, let me go back to that. There we go. And I believe the context to that was in regards to people that don't like The Princess Bride, I think. All right. I'll be right back, and then we'll go ahead and get started to this. Yeah, get started on reading this, referring to people who don't endorse Princess. Yeah, exactly. That was it. All right, I'll be right back, and then we'll dive into this. All right. Okay, gotta make sure I got my tea. Oh boy. Oh, interesting. Ghostly, damn. Are you trying to... I thought if you I quote, it's just randomly... It just randomly picks a quote. Oh, okay. How many do we have? There should be like 4. 3 or 4, I think. That's my guess. Yeah. Oh, there you go. There you go. Maybe it just randomly picked the same one 3 times. I know that's your favorite, Ghostly. Well aware that that's your favorite quote. Okay. All right, everybody. Let's dive into this. Ghostly's out of control. Ghostly is out of control. Drugs, not hug. Yeah. I mean, I am glad that that one made it in there, because that's not even mine. Okay, 4, yeah, until you add the next one, yeah. Ghostly workshopping new life mottos the general public can get behind. Yep. Drugs, not hugs, kids. Drugs, not hugs. Alright, let's dive into this. Let me... For everybody out there who is going to be writing, we're going to go ahead and run the timer. And since I'm going to be reading, unless you want to hear my voice, feel free to mute or bring the volume down, and we'll catch you on the other side. But in the meantime, we're going to be reading more insults. All right, here we go. It's me. I said that. That one is attributed to dear old Wildlight. I feel like I've written my name in the wet cement of the channel. Okay, you've put it in there many times, Ghostly. You are a legend of the channel at this point. All right, let me go ahead and get this rolling. All right, happy writing, everybody. We'll see you on the other side, and away we go. Words. All right. Let me... Okay. All right, Chapter 8. A Rude Awakening. The sharp sound of a twig tore Damascus's eyes open. He sat up straight and met the beady black eyes of a deer, frozen in place aside from its slow chewing. All right. He felt his heart beat again after a moment, but it was short-lived. Through the still blurry vision, he tore his eyes around him, taking in the broad strokes of the scene. Wide field, late afternoon, deer, edge of forest, girl. His brain stopped as his eyes landed on the figure lying beside him in the high grass. He froze as he right, okay, yeah, just to catch up. Well, this is right after the witch. So they've been, like, teleported out. Yes, they passed out in the witch's hut, yeah. And I think there was, like, they passed out, but also, like, had clearly been sent away. So I'm assuming some form of, like, teleportation or the witch's hut moved. Is my guess. Okay, gotcha. Yep. Mysterious smoke. Oh, okay, that's right. Mysterious smoke made them hit the ground. Okay. He froze as his gaze found her. Her brown hair fell down her brown hair fell down her shoulders and back and collected on the ground beneath her. Though she was yeah, so yeah, I'd say you just repeated this. You probably don't need this. He froze. You probably just say he froze. You don't need to say because you already established that he saw her. Though she was on her side, facing away from him, he could see the steady rise and fall of her breathing. Ghostly vibes, just vibes. He closed his eyes and sighed all the winds of the earth. Hey, Cryptid! I'll be here just working in the background, keeping an eye on fuckery. Of course, Cryptid. Of course. We all be busy. Oh, I can't be Henri now. Were you gonna be Henri? Okay. You could see, yep. He closed his eyes and sighed all the winds of the earth. He raised his hand to rub his eyes, but felt an attachment he failed to notice yet. Wildlight, I'm always Henri. He blinked a few times to be sure his eyes weren't mistaking him, but the green translucent rope that hung limply from his wrist remained. Right. That's right. I do remember. Yes, the rope, establishing the rope that ties them both together. Oh, it's ready. There you go, Ghostly. It's ready. Opera Soria has made the quote ready. What quote number is that? 4 or 3? Quote 4. Yay, there we go. That looks great. That looks great. Thank you, Opera Soria. Doing the Lord's work. Damascus's gaze followed the rope through the grass and to the girl, where it crawled over her and disappeared behind her form. Very slowly, he leaned to peer over her. As her profile came into view, he saw her hand resting on the ground, the other end of the rope cuffed around her small wrist. Yep. Tied together. Bound together. Damascus fell back on the ground. His roped arm rested on his knee as his other held his mouth, two wide eyes peeking over it and staring into nothing in particular. By Thea's bane, he mumbled to himself, stuck somewhere in the white noise between a head empty of thoughts or full of every thought known to man. A chill breeze made the tall grass of the field shimmy, and sent a chill up his spine. He released a breath and gently slapped his own face. "Come on, you can't just sit here," he mumbled to himself in an almost inaudible tone. He turned his gaze back to the woman beside him. It lingered on her for a long moment before he slowly extended a hand to her shoulder. He hesitated as it levitated just a few inches above her. Something distant and uncertain swam between his eyes as he looked at her. You are doing a good job describing this hesitation here. The internal plight that this poor fella is going through here. Yep. He closed, like, just the idea of, like, do I want to wake it? No. She could freak out again. Just like, I'm not even going to bother. Yeah, I like it. He closed his hand in a loose fist and retracted it, sticking it into one of his many pockets that covered his trench coat. Yep, definitely liked it. Hello, princess. Hello. Come in to join the crew. He let out a thin breath of relief as his hand wrapped around the handle of his knife. He sat back and put his foot on the rope that laid in the grass, making it taut against his wrist. He raised the blade to the rope, but the moment it made contact, it slid right through it as though it was water. He jolted and quickly moved his leg. The knife would just barely grazed his trousers, and it plunged into the earth between his legs. Oh, jeez. I like how clearly he did it with such force and anger that he literally almost cut himself. Like, he could have just cut the rope, but he couldn't do that. He had to be all grumpy about it. Hello, princess. He blinked slowly and very carefully stowed the knife back into his pocket as he slowly remembered how to breathe again. I should have guessed, he mumbled dryly to himself. Witches. He spat through a snarl. His weary gaze drifted back to the girl, and after a moment's contemplation, his shoulders sank with acceptance. Hey, you, wake up, he spoke louder in a gruff, neutral tone. His brow furrowed as she didn't even flinch. Even when the deer jumped and ran off past her into the woods, she did not stir. The sound of her breathing and quiet snores rose above the rustle of the grass and whistle of the wind. And the whistle of the wind. Damascus' lips thinned and his eyes narrowed. Miss, he trailed off as his forehead crinkled with thought. Autumnbow, you are needed awake. Please open your eyes. He spoke louder, bordering a raised voice. The girl's peaceful face remained unperturbed to his presence. Let the poor girl sleep. She's been through the ringer. I mean, I guess he has too, but just finally some quiet for the poor Buttercup. He leaned forward as his jaw hinged open just slightly. His brows remained knit together as he tried to comprehend how she was still unconscious. You could sleep through a stampede, he murmured to himself in awe. A nervous eye flicked back about the field to find it the same as he left it, the sway of reeds being the only life seen for miles. He exhaled all the breath of his lungs before he turned back to the girl. He outstretched his hand over her again, except this time he didn't hesitate. He swallowed through a tight throat of concern as his hand gently enveloped her shoulder. "Just don't break her," he sighed, and proceeded to gently shake her. He nudged her a few times and felt her tense under his hand. Slowly, her heavy eyes flittered open. She rolled over and met his eyes. The world was still for a long moment. As her brain attempted to calculate what she was seeing and that it was real, her pupils shrunk to pinpricks as it clicked. Buttercup jumped back away from him, fumbling back on her hands. Nice. It's a good description. It's good, visceral, quick descriptions, Ghostly. Your writing is very fast. You keep the pacing up, but you're able to build the tension you need to, very well. So, it's you're very efficient, which is nice. You definitely don't waste people's time with your writing, which is a big win. Damascus sat back away from her and held his hands up up in a diffusing manner. "Calm down," he said quickly. "You're fine. Everything's fine." She did not listen. She crawled back until she was about 10 feet from him with the rope, when the rope went tight and her hand hitched. Though the rest of her was still moving back. Her shoulder crashed into the dirt ground and her teeth strangled a cry. "Will you hold on a moment?" Damascus asked shortly, taking a step on his knees toward her, his trench coat pooling around him like black tar. I do like that Damascus has a trench coat. As a person who struggled through trench coat wearing in the hot summers of Arizona, I do appreciate someone who commits to the trench coat. "Stay where you are," she spat, struggling up from the ground. Her arms shook as they pushed to prop her up. The uncertainty hardened behind her eyes, but he knew to look well enough to know it stemmed from fear. Or he knew the look well enough to know it stemmed from fear. The sway of the rope between them diverted her gaze, and in the snap of a second, her hard look crumbled to awe-bound horror. Her lips parted with the inkling of the intention to say something, but only a shallow breath left them. Nice. Well, it's trenchcoat mafia phase. I had a buddy of mine who called it my gargoyle phase. He always called me Gargoyle when I was in school because it was a black London fog trench coat. It was a really nice trench coat. It was very nice, but it was definitely peak goth Twilight for sure. His hard, tired stare met horror from behind messy strands of hair. He stopped where he was and sat down, hunched forward in a vain attempt to make himself less imposing. "We need to talk," he said simply. "No, I think you need to explain," Buttercup sharply corrected. The rope spanned the distance between them in a slanted line. She pulled it to its very limit as she leaned away from him, a caged weariness in her gaze. Nice. It's very good. Another chapter in the auto, but yeah, for sure. You're laughing, cackling way too hard at the nickname. Yeah, so it was a good nickname. It was a good friend of mine. He was a funny kid. I do like this. They're tethered together bit. It's very it's a great setup for them to kind of be forced to exist in each other's presence and bicker and fight, but also learn and bond and all that kind of stuff. It's a good like fantasy trope that you're playing with, Ghostly. It's a good one. I'm always a fan of that. That would be included in a talk, yes, he snapped back dryly. His eyes drifted to scan the surrounding rolling hills. We love forced proximity, yeah. Yeah, it's always a good time. Her lips thinned. "What happened?" she demanded. "In truth, I know little more than you," he said gruffly. "I blacked out just a few moments after you. That hag burned some thylium plant. That stuff knocks you out before you can count to 3. If I had to guess, I'd say she didn't share her full list of motives." He flicked the rope with his finger, a scowl cutting up his face. I was about to say fantastic use of forks for to open high fantasy. Yeah, exactly. There's that. It reminds me a little bit of the star the if you've ever read the book Stardust. That one's where he goes and like he goes to look for a star and turns out the star is a falling star and turns out the star is a person. So he ropes it to take it with him. This one's a little less like he didn't like kidnap Buttercup. This one's just the witch did this. So it's a little less like, but you know, same sort of thing, a little bit. Um, Be right back. Joplin needs to update, so of course frozen my entire desktop. Oh, no worries, no worries. In truth, I know a little more. Buttercup shifted forward a bit as she listened. The fear behind her eyes stepped down to uncertainty as the wheels in her mind turned. The fear behind her. What, Ghostly? Neva? What? Did I misspeak something? What is that about? Buttercup shifted a bit. The fear behind her eyes stepped down to uncertainty as the wheels in her mind turned his words. Was that all you wanted to talk about? Her squinted eyes shifted up and down to him. Oh, never. Oh, no. Oh, never. Got it. Cryptid told us to behave. Yeah. We will not be. We aim to misbehave. He blinked at her for a long moment. Would you prefer I just carry you under my arm without deliberation and be on my merry way? He shook his wrist and swayed the rope between them. Because it appears we are attached. Her nose crinkled with a frown that knotted her face. What is there to discuss? We cut the cursed thing apart for good. His head fell back as he sighed. His tired eyes slanted as they met hers, and without looking down, he proceeded to pull his knife from his coat and effortlessly chop through the rope and back again. The rope remained perfectly set as it was, the knife passing through it as though it wasn't even there. Her jaw dropped and face went paler. By Thea's hand, she murmured hollowly, her gaze never leaving the rope. Do you see why we need to talk? He asked lowly, crossing his arms over his broad chest. Her lips moved like she was about to speak, but no sounds came forth. After a moment, her hand came up over her mouth, her wild, distant gaze speaking, or gaze, I assume, gaze speaking for her. Damascus sighed and let his head fall forward. Look, it's gonna be fine. We'll just go find this Adelaide, and I'm sure she'll be able to undo this. Then we'll never have to see each other again. He groaned as he pushed himself off the ground to his feet, shifting most of his weight on one leg. Just follow my lead and I'll get us there. I cannot spell. It's fine. It's fine, Ghostly. I wasn't sure what that was, because that's also a name. I was like, is there a character? Is there a character I misnamed? Named Neva? Do. Alright. Damascus sighed and let his head fall forward. Look, it's... Oh, wait, I read that. Right. Buttercup lowered her hand from her face to the chain that hung around her neck. She pulled at the chain until a pendant slipped up from her bodice. She clutched the small circular piece of metal and took a deep breath. Do you even know where this Adelaide is? Did you not say that no one had ever found her in her secret village before? Furthermore, she also stood shakily to her feet, her face hardening and her hand letting go of the trinket. Why would I follow the lead of an accused murderer, kidnapper, and assassin? Why should I not scream bloody murder for the huntsman right now? She tilted her head back to look up at him as she stood firm, her shoulders set and fists balled to her sides. Neva is still correct in dialogue if you pronounce it that way. Oh, never. Yeah, you're right, Cryptid. Yeah, never. Yep, you're right. You're right. I'd probably, never. Yeah, never would work. I'd probably like put like something to establish a shortening or an abbreviation of never. But yes, that would be the appropriate spelling. If you wanted to shorten it. Or colloquialize it. To like an accent. Um, do, 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 do. She tilted her head back and stood up as she stood firm, her eyes set and her fist balled at her sides. I do love how willfully she's just like, screw this guy, even though she kind of was nice to him, at least a little, like not like crazy against him, but you know, it is funny. It is funny to watch Buttercup kind of flip back and forth a little bit on poor old Damascus here. Damascus' stone-cold gaze was unwavering. He held up two fingers on one hand and folded one of them. I have outmaneuvered your huntsman for 10 years now. Your presence would hardly make it an inconvenience. He folded his second finger. You already had a golden chance to scream and ruin me, and you didn't. Her lips thinned to a line. It's so funny. It's so funny. He's calling her out. It's very, very charming. Her lips thinned to a line, her hand clutching her skirt. So you suggest we travel across Owentine with nothing more than the clothes on our backs to a place no one has ever found before. Do you have a better suggestion, young lady? He said dryly, his patience hitting the end of his fuse. Her eyes narrowed and her jaw tense. The rope duped. I strive for my characters to be self-aware. There is a self-awareness. I do love the sort of like not really like going through the filtration system in your brain that Buttercup is just very like says immediately what's at the top of her head, just immediately what she thinks. Just I mean, she's had a stressful day. Like, to be fair, it's not like a critique of Buttercup. Like, she's been through a lot. She's very tired. She's a very tired character. So at this point, she might as well not filter anything. She might as well just, just go on impulse alone. She's very full send, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and you can already tell it's wearing Damascus is already having to deal with quite a lot. I respect that in a person, exactly. Yeah. Yep. When the sort of like politeness meter goes off and finally you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna say what I think. I'm too tired. I'm too tired to think too hard about this. Um Do you have a better suggestion, young lady? He said dryly, his patience hitting the end of his fuse. Her eyes narrowed and her jaw tense. The rope drooped as she closed the distance to him, her head tilting back further as she went. Oh, that's good. Good body language there, Ghostly. To start, you do not refer to me as young lady. To follow up, yes. We go back and find the hag who did this and have her undo it. He scoffed dryly and looked to the country over his shoulder. Clearly you've never dealt with a witch before. Good luck finding her if she doesn't want to be found. The whole plot is neither of these two really have a politeness meter. Yeah, that's kind of that's the sort of, they're the same but the opposite at the same time sort of thing. Buttercup exhaled through her nose. There has to be another option aside from blindly traveling across the country. It's either that or cut your hand off. Take your pick. Ooh, that's good. I like that. I do like the sort of like more the little darker tinge there. Just like, I'm tired of hearing about this. You can cut off your hand and then you'll be rid of me. He took a step towards the woods, his eyes ever pivoting around him. Come on, we need to get moving. Westshire is not the place for me to loiter. That's all you need, Ghostly. Yeah, exactly. I'll be drinking Yerba Mate energy drink at 8 p.m., so I might become very full send in the next hour. There you go, Cryptid. Hey, we all need a little bit of that in our lives. We all need a little bit of, like, 8 p.m., all of a sudden we're wired and ready to go. All right. Hold on. The rope went tight between him. And he paused. He looked over his shoulder to find she was stood where she was. She stood over his shoulder to find she stood where she was. Okay, yep. Her sharp eyes steadfast. I am not going anywhere until I've explained to my family exactly what's happened. She spoke without a single doubt. I'm so tired and I need to do so many yeah, I feel you, Cryptid. I get you. I can't spell ignore me. You're fine, Ghostly. Don't worry. Don't worry. We don't need to worry about any of those, like, those Yeah, you're good. We don't need to worry about that kind of stuff on these. That's all editing. That's down the road. What we're looking at here is is how the story is working. That's all. That's where we're focusing right now, and how you're expressing the narrative. Yeah, typos don't count in chat. I mean, I hope not, man. Half the chats I send are embarrassing. Um, I just babble incoherently and can't spell. Um, he exhaled a deep breath through his nose as he turned around to face her, his glare ever severe. "We step foot in Westshire, I'm dead and you're forever outcast," he said plainly. "Neither of those things deter me." She spoke certainly, her shoulders drawn back in glare and wavering. "Understand me, Damascus Drake. Just because you are imposing does not mean I will bow to your whims." Nice. Nice. Damascus raised an eyebrow. But you expect me to bend to yours? Ah, there we go. There we go. Now we get to the crux of the argument. Buttercup clenched her teeth and came to stand before him. With surprising speed and force, she reached up and grabbed him by the collar of his jacket. Nice. She pulled his stiff frame down to hunch just above her. "In this instance, yes," she said sharply. His hair fell in thick, frizzy tendrils across his face. Though she could still see his frozen gaze as it burrowed into her. She didn't back down as she held tight to his coat. Nor did he pull away. "We will move in the late hours of the night, and you'll be quick about it." We will move in the late hours of the night, and you'll be quick about it," he said lowly. She let go of his coat and didn't move from where she was standing. "I can keep it brief. I don't plan on even speaking with them." Damascus took a step back. His dark, thoughtful gaze lingered on her. He huffed and turned around, staring into the woods. "Keep up. I won't be slowing down." Nice. Okay. All right. Yeah, so we've got okay, so for chapter 8, yeah, so it essentially was just the where are we going, them figuring out the new position they're in the beginning of their quote unquote their journey. The road movie, the road movie part begins. Um all right. Yeah, I guess thoughts overall for this chapter. It was a little breather. If you, yeah, you were doing quite a bit, and you let it. I did like. I think my favorite part so far is the beginning where we're just kind of sitting with Damascus a little bit. Um, okay, I'm gonna head to the pharmacy for the last of the meds I need, but I'll try to jump. Of course, Opera Soria, go get your meds, and we will see you back here when you get back here. We'll be on for a little bit. But yes, be safe. Go get your meds. That is priority. And if they make you feel crummy, of course, definitely be sure to rest up. But I think my favorite part was our ability to sit with, um, Damascus at the beginning. And I like that you gave him time to just kind of it shows a lot of his character, obviously, to be like, I don't want to wake her up, because I know the moment I wake her up, it's going to be, well, essentially what exactly happens, which is a lot of explaining and kind of coming to terms with their predicament. And I like that you kind of gave him the time to kind of figure it out for himself, kind of like what his plan was, and then to have them butt heads about this plan. Because that's a good way to set up that they're going to have to start working together kind of in a way to solve their predicament. But to have him be like, I'm not going to bother with her, I'm just going to figure this out, and then she'll follow in suit, and then of course she fights back against that. So you're doing a really good job of setting character here, and the new character dynamic. I really do like it. I think my only note, and this is not even a note, this is just a preference thing, is I would get, if you could get to the just because you're spooky means I'm going to bow to your whims, and he says, well, and then his retort is, you expect me to bow to yours, because that's definitely the crux of it. The only thing is I would consider maybe getting to that a little bit faster, but that's a personal preference thing. That is just a personal. That's not even a critique. That's just a personal preference thing. Because I tend to get very if back and forths continue too much about the same topic. I just kind of start to zone out a little bit about it. But that's a me thing. It's not like you're being slow about it, because you are. Buttercup is bringing up legitimate, like she's bringing up things that any normal person would bring up at the time. My only thing would be do it faster. But that's it. Other than that, the end of it's great. That would be that's my only note, and it's a personal preference note. So take it or leave it. All right, Misery Abounds. What a what a title, Ghostly. What a chapter title. Misery Abounds. I can hear the ghostly laugh, the ghostly cackle at that title. All right. It felt fitting. Yeah, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see it. Is the misery just their each other's company? is that going to be the misery here? Chapter 9. Misery Abounds. What does my laugh sound like in your head, Twilight? It sounds like a ghostly, maniacal cackle. That's probably like, it sounds like, it's like ethereal, echoey, not totally corporeal, so it's just kind of like on the wind. And it's and I'd say that the voice itself is what would Ghostly Zosh's voice sound like? You know what? I may have actually heard your voice. I may have at one point, because I do remember at one point, Ghostly, you did make a video on YouTube that you wrote a script for, but I don't know if that was you reading that script, because I did watch that video. Now, that was a long time ago, and I do not remember at all what that person sounded like. But if that was you, I have at one point heard your voice. Nope, silent, shut it. That was a long time ago too. That was like right around the time you first started dropping in here. But yeah, I don't actually remember. My guess is you sound. You know what I'd say that you probably sound like in my brain is you probably sound like a Gelfling. I'd say you probably sound like a Gelfling. In my brain, with a slight tinge of the British, not because you are British, but because I think you would definitely try to pretend to be British, that you would have that little like tinge of a British voice. And I think the voice actors for the Gelflings were Brits. I know the puppeteers were. That video no longer exists, and we are gonna forget about that. No, Ghostly. What is that? A Gelfling from Dark Crystal. The Gelflings. Have you seen the Dark Crystal, Ghostly? That might be a little too old for you. I was obsessed with that movie as a kid. It was the Jim Henson. Okay. Well, if you YouTube it, you can hear what a Gelfling sounds like. And of course there was the Netflix Age of the Resistance. But it's actually, actually I think one of the Gelflings is voiced by Anna Taylor-Joy, so it's like, it you sound kind of like that in my brain. The horror, yeah, right. I have the horrifying saga of being known, the Ghostly story. Yeah. It is. I find that deeply. I like how Ghostly's like, that video doesn't exist. It does not exist. Why, like, quit knowing me. But yeah, I feel like, given the fact that, your general disposition, you being a noodle, all that kind of stuff, with your love of the Brits, I'd say in my brain you sound like an ethereal, not totally corporeal Gelfling. That is what I'd say that you sound like. All right, let's dive into this. I think we got 7 minutes in the sprint, but I think I prefer this. All right. Misery abounds. The sky had moved slowly over them as they sat in silence under the shelter of a fallen tree. Damascus had pulled a black book from one of his many pockets and read in dead silence, while Buttercup looked off to the forest with a gaze that stretched much further. The sun had just set when a growl shattered the quiet. Damascus glanced up from the pages to Buttercup, who had leaned against the tree with her arms clutched tightly around her. "Have you eaten?" The sound of his voice boomed in the quiet. "Not today," she said passively, her gaze still on the trees. He sighed and snapped his book shut before he set it on his knee. "Why did you not eat earlier?" he asked plainly, reaching a hand into one of his many pockets. "I was busy." She spoke absent-mindedly, her gaze unmoving. He shook his head, and "I'm the man of a few words," he said under his breath. He pulled from his hand from his back. He pulled his hand back from his pocket and an apple in his grasp. "Here, silence your insides." That's a funny line. I like that. Silence your insides. He held it out to her with a side glance. She turned her head to face him, her eyes readjusting to focus on him. She looked from him to the offering with a brow knotted. "Thank you." She sounded unconvinced, but she nonetheless took the apple. Damascus simply nodded before he picked up his book and stuck his nose back in it. Buttercup studied the apple. She looked all about it, then subtly sniffed it. Jeez. Good lord. Her eyes narrowed as they slipped back to her eyes narrowed as they slipped back to him. "I don't know. Mother always said not to accept treats from strange men," she jabbed. "Golden advice," he dryly responded, his eyes still scanning the page. "Nice." Oh, wait, I did? Oh, gotcha, I did. "It's not poisoned. I do not. Oh, gotcha. It's not poisoned. I do not fancy a corpse as a companion," he said without looking up from his book. Got it. Her eyes narrowed as they slipped back to him. "I don't know. Mother always said not to accept treats from strange men." "Golden advice," he dryly responded, his eyes still scanning the page. She looked down to the apple in her hand for a long moment. Her stomach screeched its outrage once more. She could feel it cramp and clench like mighty beseeching jaws. She frowned and sighed before she took a bite out of it. He glanced over to her out of the corner of his eye, but kept his book aloft. "Don't say a word," she mumbled bitterly, her features set in a peeved line as she continued to eat the apple. It's funny. The thinnest line of a smile pulled at Damascus's lip as he turned his eyes back to the page. That's funny. Cute moment. The moon was high in the night sky as two silhouettes ranging in size crept through the wheat field. I felt like we needed some happiness. In a chapter about misery. It makes sense. The only sound to be heard... before we get to the next bit, got it. The only sound to be heard about the village was the whistle of the wind and symphony of the swaying reeds. The structures all stood as dark husks of what in a day were homes and businesses. Their windows were shuttered or draped, with no light to cast its beacon into the night. Buttercup led them, steering their course toward a small wooden house, all on its lonesome at the edge of town. Damascus kept close behind her, his head turned on a never-ceasing swivel, except for when they fell on the shack. He allowed himself a spare moment to dwell on it as they approached. "That is your home?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she said as sharply as she could without raising her voice. "It's leaning." That's good. Oh, that's good, he observed. "Yeah, and you sleep in the woods," she snapped. He could see her shoulders tense in front of him. He sighed and looked off towards the bulk of town. "That's not what I meant. Why has no one helped you fix it?" "My family does not have the capabilities," she said quickly, walking a little faster. "No, why have none of them helped?" She wasn't looking at him, but she knew exactly where his gaze was. She swallowed, her attention entrapped on the slanted, run-down structure that she called home. "You used to live here. You know how Westshire is. Why do you even bother to ask?" Her low tones sliced through the wind. He forced his attention off the town and to the destination. "Because I hoped it was just me." Aw, that's sad. That's rough. That's rough. Yeah, that's good. This is a good little moment, Ghostly. I really like this. I really like this bit. Clearly not, she said tightly under her breath. Her knuckles whitened on her skirt she held above her boots. Her attention never deviated from her home. The tensity that strangled her muscles strained with every step closer, but her pace never eased. Nice. That's good. And you're building tension here too. That's a good little moment. It's definitely a good little moment and a classic condemnation of the town. Um, I was curious to see once your road movie bit started whether or not you are going to continue. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and pause here for a minute since the sprint is almost over, and then we'll pick this up on the second sprint. Blueberry Bean, welcome in. Welcome. How are you? How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. If it's your first time in here, I'm Wildlight. I'm a screenwriter, and we are a writing community. And right now we are reading Ghostly's story during our sprints. COVID stream, are you sick? I am indeed recovering from COVID, so at the moment. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But yeah, if you're a writer, feel free to share what if you want to share what you've been working on. If not, feel free to mute during the sprints if you want to get words done, because that's generally what we do. Do it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I plan on it. What was I saying? Oh yeah. I was wondering if we were gonna go back to the town at all, because I know that we're getting ready to kind of head out onto the journey, and I'm glad you kind of bring it back and kind of bring it back once more into the town to give us a little bit of like give us a little bit of like a further unraveling of the nature of the town, and kind of like it's leaning into some of the themes that you're clearly already setting up. So I'm glad we're getting a little bit more of like a return and comment on the town before we completely head off. Okay, good. No. I think it would be a problem if you didn't return to elements of the town. It's definitely fine to like move on from the town eventually, but if you had just left, it would kind of undermine all the time that we had spent in the town to begin with. Um, I think you definitely need a little bit of like a buttoning, um, particularly if we do leave the town for a while. We definitely do that. All right, we're gonna start the break timer, and we're gonna take a break. And then we'll be back in and we'll continue reading chapter 9 on the next sprint. But I am glad that you are going back to the town, at least like dealing with Buttercup's family, and hopefully we'll see some. I'm curious to see what you're gonna do with the Huntsman, if anything further is gonna happen with the Huntsman, because I know you return to that character later on. So, cool. Let's see, Blueberry Bean. I am writing world building an alien planet. Very cool. The planet's called Harmony. It's very music and community centric, because I love music and community and the community that's built around music. And I'm a massive space nerd, so it makes sense. So I thought, why not smush those topics and write a thing? That is the way to do it, Blueberry Bean. Just take the things you love, smash them together, and make something new and unique and yours out of it. So well done. Well done. It sounds cool. I love the name Harmony. Very good. It's a very good name. Um, oh, I was gonna tell you too, Ghostly. I'm getting ready to. I'm not gonna be writing it on stream. There won't be. I won't be working on it on stream, but I am dipping my toes back into prose. So I am going to be writing a fantasy novella. I think, starting this month. So we'll see how that goes. It might be a thing I drop in the Discord at some point in the future. So we will see. But it's going to be a dark fantasy novella. Dipping my toes back in the prose a little bit. It's definitely a bucket list item. I've been reading. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Gormenghast, but I've been kind of reading the Gormenghast books, and I'm falling in love with that book. It's a trilogy, but by Marvin Peake. It is. I don't know how I've gone this long in my life without hearing about that book, but it has definitely rekindled my desire to want to write like novella or like some prose. So okay, Blueberry Bean, I'm going to be lurking anonymous. Of course, feel free, lurk away, and work on your writing. Feel free to mute the timer that is somewhere around here. We'll be going for writing sprints. So that's kind of the thing. Hello, welcome, Tigris, Grixis. I guess let me know how if I have completely butchered that. But hello, how are you? How goes it? How goes it? Welcome, 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 welcome in. We are on our break. Usually we do writing sprints where we all co-work together, but take Grixis. Okay, second one was correct. Take Grixis. Well, welcome in, Take Grixis. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Wildlight. I'm a screenwriter, and yeah, we're currently reading Ghostly's work right now. But usually we do writing sprints where music's on, no one's talking, and we all work in 40-minute sprints with 10-minute breaks. So. If you are working, obviously while we're reading, not to distract you, feel free to mute away and keep working, but welcome in and feel free to share what you're working on. You're working on an outline? Awesome. Fantastic. I'm going to stretch and put this drink back in the fridge. 100 milligrams of caffeine. Yes, Cryptid. Definitely do that. And stretch. While I am so proud, can't wait. Thank you, Cryptid. Yes, it's definitely always attempt to do writing that is not in your wheelhouse. So I will be dipping back into the prose. Come back to the dark side. Pros have cookies. Thanks, Ghostly. Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan. There will be some prose writing, even though I am writing like 3 scripts right now. So probably, and I'm storyboarding too. We need to get back into storyboarding the crime clown story and get back onto that. But I'm waiting to get that until I'm trying to, in the background, shore up talent because I'd like to be able to get some, I'd like to be able to get like kind of some actors in mind so I can start doing like read-throughs and stream some read-throughs and stuff. So I'm kind of holding off on that until I get some of that stuff lined up. Let's see here. Welcome in. Proofreading tonight, but there will be in the background. Of course, Cryptid. Yeah, get your work done for sure. It's a science fantasy novel, science fiction fantasy novel based in a cyberpunk world. I am all here for cyberpunk. That is my jam. I love cyberpunk with a passion. That sounds awesome. I've yet to finish a book before, but this is the one I'll absolutely finish. Exciting, super, super dope. I wrote a film, actually one of the screenplays I wrote that has garnered the most attention is a cyberpunk rom-com. Cyberpunk is my jam, so if you finish it and need it and want to share it, I will dive in and read the shit out of that. So I am all there for cyberpunk stuff. Cyberpunk powered by magic, like Shadowrun. I'm into that kind of stuff. 100% my jam. Watching and writing from my laptop, chatting from my phone. Of course, Blueberry Bean. Wow, you do it. You're multitasking. Well done. Look, man, I'm not mad at Crime Clowns doesn't pick up till after November. I feel you, Ghostly. Yeah, it's. I have a feeling it's gonna be a fall project. I have to figure out how my summers are going anyway, and it definitely I've needed work to pick up, and I need work to keep being busy is the thing, because the bank account needs it. So it's kind of waiting until until that stuff is set, and then I can lock down a location and we can start working on that. It would be kind of nice to be able to just do that in like a month. Like, actually get set up for a month, do the rehearsals, stream the rehearsals, get everything set, and then stream us filming the actual film and do everything within like a 3-week period. And that kind of keeps it like it doesn't take too much out of everybody's schedules. It doesn't become a thing that takes forever to get prepped. Because that's the big problem, is that people are very hesitant to sign on to do anything, particularly if they're going to be doing it for free or for no pay. Nobody wants to sign on to something that's going to become like a prolonged thing. So, particularly for like a short project like this. Yeah, that right, exactly. Yeah, exactly, Cryptid. Writing is a gauntlet. The play is throwing my free time in the toilet. Yep, yep, yep. You're doing a lot, Ghostly. Thanks. I'm excited to do it. It's been writing on. I've been writing off and on for 19 years. It's about time I finished a book. I'm only getting older. Hey, so and that's a huge feat. So definitely don't be too hard on yourself for having not done it yet. It's it's so hard, man. It's so hard. It just let it, like, the fact that you're doing it now and even attempting to do it now is a big win. And just honestly, just writing, just getting any writing down, a short story, novella, just doing it is the most important thing. Sometimes I worry we get too caught up on, like, how long it's been, how long it took for all this sort of stuff. So it's society tends to put these arbitrary limits. It's just arbitrary limits that are designed to both almost kind of like de-incentivize you or make you feel worse about yourself. Social media is really bad at that too. So just don't fall into that trap. Um, I switched the main character from a federal agent to an assassin, so I'm reworking the plot. Cool. Okay. I did very cool to switch it to an assassin. I'm more into spies and assassins than detectives, which are still cool, and federal agents. Please, yeah. That makes sense. I kind of like. I was. It's like a thing that I like about William Gibson too. If you're doing cyberpunk, sometimes it's better to be like the criminals and like the desperados, and not so much like any institution of authority. Since most of cyberpunk is leaning about a very usually anti-corporate, anti-authority bent anyway, so it's probably going to be more interesting to do, unless that's kind of when you do the noir thing, like the Blade Runner thing, where that's kind of where the detective stuff comes in, or like the federal agent-y vibe. What are your thoughts on writing on rainy days? I feel like it helps me immerse myself because the concept. Yeah, I like rain a lot, so I think I'm in agreement with you, Blueberry Bean. Work best when I have stuff like music, for sure. I think I'm in your camp. I like white noise in the background. I also like weather a lot too. I used to write a lot when it snowed when I lived in Colorado. I'm 34, so it's not like I'm old. I'm getting there. I'm getting there someday, though. Yeah, you'll get there. 100. Yeah, you're younger than me, so you're doing great. You're doing fantastic. You're knocking it out of the park. That's you're already ahead of the game. I also try to remind myself that the last 4 years have been an utter madhouse shit show. So I kind of feel like there were four blank years anyway. So I try not to be too hard on myself about what I've gotten done in the past 4 years, since the world was upended many times over. Um, I get it, man. Mother time is a cruel mistress. Yeah, yeah. It can be. I'm trying to reestablish a new relationship with Mother Time. Trying to re we're going to therapy. All right, let's catch up on chat really quick, and then we'll dive back into reading insults here. The days are I've been really upbeat stuff, getting really into Coldplay. Oh man, Coldplay. I have not listened to Coldplay in a long time. But that was the jam back in my high school days. People loved Coldplay. The days are getting shorter and the time gets more scarce. Oh, to get old. Ghostly says the says, says the youthful one. I'm returned, bone stretched and super caffeinated, safely out of reach. I have to make a 2-hour trip back and forth to the in-laws today. Oof, that's rough, Cryptid. I agree. Cyberpunk is usually darker. I was originally influenced by Final Fantasy 12, okay, which is core fantasy. Yeah, well, yeah, that's definitely like pretty traditional medieval fantasy, if I recall that game correctly. I think that was 12. Um, with a bit of advanced technology, I flipped that and set it on Cyberpunk Fantasy. Yeah, definitely a big jam there for sure. Jamming with that, which is also why I'm working so late. Makes sense. I write a playlist. I write to play. I do that too. But when I'm in the mountains, I'll usually write to rain or snow or the wind. There is no age limit on creating. Tolkien was far. Yeah, Tolkien. Yeah, Tolkien was doing both The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings when he was much older. Although I believe his initial sketchbook for the Silmarillion, or at least the mythical notes of his world, were when he was pretty young. But the actual novel writing, much older. I think he was in like his 50s. He was an established academic at the time. Work at your own pace. Exactly. I know. I just want to make sure I have tons of time to create as much as I can. I'm in. Yep, I agree with you. Yep. It's just start doing it now and doing it consistently, and you will have time to create. Yep, just a bunch of middle-aged creatives here. Yep. Are you putting me in middle age, Ghostly? How dare you? How dare you? Middle-aged. I'm a spring chicken. Thank you very much. How dare you? Blueberry. Coldplay's dropping new music in October. Very cool. I'll definitely hop in the Discord and share. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, of course. Feel free to. Absolutely. That would be great. I survived at Twilight, and they're nice at least. I took a nap the moment I got home because socializing, so I'm going to get these damn pages done tomorrow. Yeah, don't... You're doing a lot, Cryptid. Take it easy. Take it easy. Laugh. Exactly. Just make a schedule that works for you. Exactly. So sorry, Twilight. Old man. We're old men. You listen here, you rugrat. You listen here. I am a delightful spring chicken of an old man. You hear me? You hear me? Same Twilight. Wow, middle-aged. I know. I know. Yep. That's Twilight called me a rugrat. That's true. That's true. I literally just did. Yeah, I cannot take it easy. I know. I'm dealing with that too. I lost a whole week due to COVID, so I feel you. I feel you. All right, we should probably... Why is your head wet? What were you doing? Why is the top of your head wet? What? How the hell did you do that? All right. Oh, yes. Yes, everybody. For everybody here who is new, since we got some new people, this is the princess. It's Princess Yue. She is an old lady. She's very cranky, but she is indeed a princess. And she likes to hop up in my lap and scream into the microphone. So I definitely hope you all like cats, because she will absolutely show up and start screaming at everybody. Yes, and also apparently get her head wet. I'm not sure what... How did you do that? I don't... What did you get into? Now I'm worried what you got into. So... Father, you are not old. Father, yeah, Father, you are not old. You are young and wise. Thank you, Cryptid. Excellent. Fortunately, I have only had it once years ago. Yeah, this is my second bout with it. I got it back in 2022 after I went to Anime Expo, and of course the anime kids got me sick. Of course. And then now this time I got it. I was on a job. I was working on a shoot all week in Maui, and I got it from them. I got it from the doctors I was working with, which I find infinitely funny that doctors gave me COVID. I love cats whose meows sound like yeah, she's noisy. She's a noisy cat. That's for Princess to know, Twilight. Exactly, Cryptid. Listen here, you rugrat. Okay, we'll add that, Ghostly. That'll get added. Don't worry, that'll get added. I'll copy that for Opera Soria when Opera Soria gets back, and then we'll add that to the quotes. Of course. All right, we gotta get started on this. I'm gonna get distracted. All right. Here we go. All right. There we go. All right. Back to it. All right. I adore it. Cats are like owls are. Oh, I love owls. Owls are gorgeous. That sucks. Oh no, it sucks that I'm allergic. Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry, Blueberry. Get a hairless one. Yeah, you can even give them clothes. Princess, say meowie. This was my first round, and we're all doing we can to never get it again. New mask. Yeah, for sure. All right, muting. Let's do it. All right, muting up. All right, everybody. We're gonna be reading, so if you are writing, feel free to mute, because you don't want to hear my voice babbling over while you're working. So we're gonna go and go, but the timer is up. Happy writing, everybody, and away we go. Let's get back into this. Let's dive back on into chapter 9. Okay. Damascus forced his breathing. Damascus forced his breathing even. His hand lingered. I mean, that you like evening his breath, right? Ghostly, sorry, that confused me. Yeah. Damascus forces, yeah, okay. Like evening his breathing even. His hand lingered over the pocket with his knife as his eyes scoured the barren field and darkened town. The coarse wood of the shack prickled inches behind his back. He would have leaned on it if he wasn't scared the whole thing would topple. I'll go in first to make sure everyone's asleep. I'll get you when I know it's clear. I can't go far anyway. Her words rung in his mind as the minutes had ticked by painfully slow. Oh, nice. Very good. Very good. Nice, Ghostly. If this is a scheme to get a huntsman, he grumbled quietly to himself over crossed arms. That's good. Very good. Good jump here too, Ghostly. Good like time jump. You use the time in your scene setting very well. The way that you set your scene is very, very solid. So well done there. Yeah, the time skip, yeah, and then you're kind of setting it up. It's very good. It's very cinematic of you. So well done. Hey, Poison Dart Sixes, welcome in. We're just reading Ghostly's story at the moment. Feel free to join on in, or feel free to write according to the timer if you are indeed a writer. But welcome in. Let's see. Okay. If this is a scheme to get a huntsman, he grumbled quietly to himself over crossed arms. Rather paranoid for a demon, Buttercup mumbled behind him. Nice. She pushed the door open and took a step out into the small creaky landing. They're all out cold, and once an autumn bough is out, they are out, she emphasized with a nod. I noticed, he said, grumbling. The wood landing screamed under him as he clenched his jaw. Nice. Good callback, Ghostly. Good joke. Good callback. Just don't start rattling chains or hitting them with hickory switches, and we'll be fine. She gave him a look that was indistinguishable between joke and warning. I'll resist, he said just as evenly. She gave him a final dark look before she ducked into the darkness of the home. Damascus clenched his jaw and reluctantly leaned into the small doorway behind her. The house was cast in shadow, all save the light from the moon that melted through the few windows and the cracks of the paneling. It was tight. The kitchen, dining room, and living spaces were on top of each other. A loft lifted up into the rafters, and he glimpsed the end of a few beds. A door that led to what he assumed was a minuscule side room. He noticed as they approached. The doors cracked open to blackness. Buttercup carefully wove her way past the dining room table and to a desk tucked away in the corner. Damascus watched the ground as he followed, all too aware of the wooden blocks and the well-loved toys that scattered across the cramped space like landmines. When he looked up, he stood just behind her. She hunched over the rickety desk. From his aerial view, he could see as she began to quickly scribble with a quill onto the curling paper. I do enjoy this a lot. The banter in the novel is absolutely just peak. It's very good. I mean, obviously, Ghostly, your dialogue has always been fantastic. That's not a surprise. As well as your characters, just your general ability to write characters and write in their voice. But the banter is always top notch, and you've picked two very good. You've set a good character dynamic between these two types of characters, but it is very good. It is very good. And I like this. I do like writing a goodbye note or as being, I assure you I'm okay. I assure you I'm okay. He has allowed me to come here and alert you, which he did not have to do, especially if he is as people claim. Her hands stilled, and she slowly turned back to look up at him. Do you mind? She rasped in a hush. Not at all, he muttered. Are you defending me? He peered past her shoulder a bit, her tone lost on him. Oh, that's funny. Very good. They're very good. She quickly covered her words with her hands before scowling back at him. I will be attacking you in just a moment if you don't get your big nose out of my personal matters. His gaze fell off her and the paper to the thin floorboard, shifting back away from her. Very well. Just make it quick, yeah? She huffed and turned back to him again, hunched over the note as he scrawled. Hunched over the note as scrawled. Damascus sighed as he watched her out of the corner of his eye, before forcing his focus on the cramped cottage. He could see the 2 lumps beneath the blankets on the 2 beds in the loft, the third one void of any occupant. He shook his head with mild disbelief and maybe some envy at how heavy this family slept. Unbothered to the wider world in those fleeting moments of unconscious peace, nice. His gaze traveled lazily down the stairs, except a shine caught his way to the bottom. Through the blackness step, 2 amber eyes glinted in a sliver of moonlight. Nice. This is very good, Ghostly. The setting up of the end, the fact that like the life that he lives does not have this sort of luxury. And interestingly enough, showing how starting off your story showing the plight of Buttercup in a town that is extraordinarily gossipy and judgmental and kind of crummy to the people that the quote-unquote outsiders. You kind of establish that Buttercup isn't particularly like obviously privileged at all, or has like is kind of the put upon one in the city, but to show kind of that there is a comfort here that they get to take part in that Damascus is alienated from is really good. I really like this kind of this sense of overall awareness of where these 2 characters sit in the world and as they're viewed and they view themselves. It's very well done. Very well done. Let's see. I see that, yeah, poison dart. Yep. Let's see. Let's see here. No command. Yes. I think I've been. Yeah, make some tea, get some work done. Oh, he's been worried about your work. Yeah, I feel like my stories aren't interesting enough. There's an audience for everything. Everybody thinks that their stuff is not interestingly enough. Don't worry, Poison Dart. I almost can guarantee that it will be. Absolutely will be. A lot of times we tend to be our worst critics, and often your voice and your point of view and the type of stories you want to tell are important. It's usually just about crafting that to be able to tell that story in the best way possible. But the core idea, the stories that you want to tell, are almost always going to be they're going to be interesting, and there will be an audience for them. Is YFA the most saturated market? Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's everybody has a good story in them. I'm a firm believer in that. All right, but well done, Ghostly. I really like that. I really liked that bit at the top. All right. Dimitri has been tossing and turning. Oh, we're back to Dimitri. All right. Here we go. Switching. All right. Boop, boop, boo. Dimitri had been tossing and turning all night. Hayward had done his best when tucking him in, but no one could do it like Buttercup. He didn't know what time it was, but he knew it was too late because the frogs were singing. He wondered if one of them might be Mr. Hopper. He laid back on his small barrel bed, clenching the stuffed sheep to his chest. You think she just got busy? The piggy place just gets busy. You think she just got busy? The piggy place gets busy at nighttime, he whispered to the sheep, whose silence implied he had no idea. Very cute. Hayward said she was probably just working extra. But he looks scared, he said softly to the toy. I'm trying not to be scared. Buttercup's big and strong. She can fight off monsters and mean people, he said confidently, nodding his head to the underside of the stairs, but his resolve quickly fell with a single thought that made his lip quiver. But she's still gone, and I don't think she was supposed to be. He lifted his sheep to look at it in the eye. Where is she, Lawrence? Aw, Lawrence the sheep. I love this. Lawrence the sheep. The stuffed animal simply slumped, its button eyes void of all answers. The young boy's face wound in a frown, and he hugged the toy, burying his face in the matted wool. I miss Buttercup, Lawrence. A quiet sob escaped the small, shuttered form curled away under the stairs. The sound of the creaking deck cut his heartbreak short. He looked up over the sheep with bleary eyes. The door creaked open, the dim light of the moon and stars backlighting a familiar silhouette. He perked up in an instant, sitting pinned straight in bed, rubbing the swimming waves out of his eyes. The door creaked closed behind her as she moved across the floor, stopping at the heart of the home. Dimitri didn't waste a moment. He threw his blanket off and scrambled out of bed, dropping the sheep to the floor. He crashed into her and tightly wrapped his arms around her legs, causing her to quickly turn from the cracked side door to the unknown hugger. She put her hand to her chest as she caught her breath and took a knee. You nearly scared me to death, Demi, Buttercup said in a hush, soothing back his wild head. I like this little jump here, Ghostly. This is good. Or, like, going... His hand grabbed fistful of her dress. Where were you? He muffled. It's late. She wrapped her arms around him, resting her chin on his head. It's a long story, Demi, but I'm gonna need you to do me a favor, okay? Even he could pick up on the exhaustion in her voice. He nodded as he pulled away, his big brown eyes open like gates to a higher beyond. Buttercup put a hand on his shoulder as she met his gaze. I have a visitor with me. He's going to come inside for a minute while I see to something. I need you to stay in bed and pretend to be asleep, okay? Can you do that for me, Demi? Her voice was quiet, but he could hear the seriousness in her tone. But why do I need to pretend to be asleep? He tilted his head to the side. Buttercup bit her tongue, forcing her expression light. Because it is so far past your bedtime, Demi, and you certainly should be asleep right now. Not to mention, I think my friend might be scared of ornery little boys. Oh, that is adorable, Ghostly. Adorable. Buttercup definitely knows how to manage the kids. She managed to smile as she tousled his hair. Dimitri giggled. Why would he be scared of little boys? Her smile deepened at that, losing her tension for a moment. She picked him up in her arms and carried him back to his bed, ignoring the rope as it tightened across the room. Because they're smelly, gross, feral little beasts. She gently poked him in the rib as she set him in his bed. Dimitri smiled up at her, instantly settling under the blankets as she arranged better than anyone else could. Thank you so much. I already have mom vibes. Exactly. Yeah, I think you've nailed that. Like she already kind of had that, like, kind of the older sister, obviously knew how to handle, but this is very motherly. It's very sweet. Definitely of a daughter who has to raise a much younger brother, or kind of almost act as a parent to them. It comes across really well. Dimitri smiled up to her, instantly setting the blankets she arranged better than anyone could. Her eyes flickered over the door, her face stoning over. She leaned down and kissed his forehead. All right, you rotten little monster. Keep quiet and still, okay? Like we play hide and seek with Ruby. Like when you play hide and seek with Ruby. Dimitri's features were still knotted together with an apparent confusion, but he didn't argue. He rested his head against the pillow stuffed with worn hay. He watched through the slits in the stairs as she crossed the room with a little too much haste to be calm. Her movements betrayed her desperation, even if he couldn't put a word. Couldn't put a word to it. Nice, very good, very good. Something's weird here, he muttered to his sheep. Who I like the confiding in the sheep is fantastic. But I do like the kid is like, a child being able to inherently tell something is off, even though they're not able to articulate it. He muttered to his sheep who lay simply on the ground. She reached the door and mumbled something to someone on the other side before falling back through the door. Dimitri thought she had closed the door behind her, but as the shadow that blocked the door breached the entryway, he realized it was a person. His jaw fell agape as the wall of shadow only grew as it straightened from its stupor. It was a giant, a mountain, a monster. Demi's stomach churned with the threat of fear, but as he looked at Buttercup and saw how she didn't even give the figure a second glance, he decided that it must befriend them. Buttercup moved swiftly back through the house, weaving back to the desk across from the stairs, though she wasn't what Dimitri focused on. His attention never left the looming shadow that slowly lumbered closer. It was slow and methodical, minding the small furniture and cramped space. Dimitri squinted through the shadow and leaned forward, in hopes of seeing the face through the murk. The figure kept its head low as it watched the ground, stepping over some of his toys. It came to rest just behind Buttercup, enveloping her from Dimitri's view. "Do you mind?" she asked. Um, she asked in an angry hush Dimitri recognized as the "Leave Buttercup alone now" voice. Very good. "Not at all. Are you defending me?" This is cute, Ghostly. I do like that you are. I do like scene repetition done in this way, where we're getting another point of view, another perspective, the kid's perspective of this whole thing. So, it was very careful with my language referring to Damascus as it. Yes, yeah, you're doing a very good job of like keeping it in his headspace, and then replaying the scene with this sort of different perspective. But now the question is, how is this deviation and repetition going to further, what does it reveal here is what I'm curious about, because this is a very useful tool narratively, but now I want to see what you're going to use it for. I was a little uncertain about the time rewind. Yeah. I'm just curious. This is one of the most powerful narrative tools that you can actually use, both in any medium, like video games, art, or like video games, cinema, story, or prose. It's a very powerful tool, but usually you definitely want to make sure you have a reason why you're doing it. It came to rest behind. Blah, 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 blah. Where am I at? Okay. Yes. "Not at all. Are you defending me?" The shadow rumbled in a low voice like thunder. Dimitri could nearly feel it reverberate in his chest. It reminded him of the horn the shepherds across the fields would use. But Buttercup wasn't impressed. "I will be attacking you in just a moment, if you don't get your big nose out of my personal matters." Dimitri's gaze grew with that. He looked into the back of the tall shadow with sympathy, knowing that he was in big trouble. Oh, that's good. Quick, say sorry," Dimitri whispered to himself in an audible hush. He clutched his sheet as he watched, craning his neck in vain, attempting to peer around the shadow. "Very well. Just make it quick, yeah?" It responded with a bit of bite. The shadow shifted back away from her a hair, its head pivoting over its shoulder to peer into the loft. In a thin ray of moonlight through the leaky patch on the roof, Dimitri could see a sliver of its face. Dimitri's eyes traced the thick knotted scar that wound up the stranger's cheek. His face was shadowed in a hard scowl far more fearsome than the frowns on the townspeople he was used to. The little boy's ribcage squeezed around his heart as the stranger's attention shifted, and those two eyes that were black as coal met his. Nice. Okay, all right. Got a little bit of we're ending on a little cliffhanger here. All right. His gut dropped a bit at the familiar sight of fear behind the young, honey-coated eyes of the boy. He was young. Okay, nice. Okay, we're shifting back. He was young, not much older than 6, Damascus guessed. He was the spitting image of Buttercup, a little uncomfortably so. Does she have a son? He thought to himself, his brow raising involuntarily. The boy's gaze never left Damascus as he pushed himself back against the wall away from the strange man. Damascus's shoulders slumped slightly. The twinge in his chest tightened. His gaze fell and caught on the small stuffed sheep that laid abandoned on the floor, its button eye glinting up to him in what he imagined was a plead. He glanced over his shoulder to Buttercup to see she was in the throngs of writing, her hand tight on the quill as it switched about. He breathed as he took a knee and lowered himself in front of the makeshift barrel bed. The boy swallowed. His uncertain gaze followed the movement. Damascus picked up the toy that fit in his palm and held it up to his face. Held it up to face the boy. "Is this yours, sir?" He spoke quietly, but there was a forced upturned tune to his tone that sounded foreign from his lips. He kept a steady eye on the boy's face, carefully considering his reactions. Buttercup's head snapped up as she heard him speak. The quill bled ink into the parchment as she dropped it. She spun around to find Damascus on a knee in front of the Dimitri's bed, and Dimitri wide-eyed against the wall. Her heart leapt into her throat, her veins flowing with fire. Her hand tightened into a shaky fist as she took a step forward, but something stopped her short. Dimitri sat up from the wall and leaned toward him just slightly, carefully taking the sheep from Damascus to hold in the crook of his arm. "That's Lawrence," he explained quietly, his gaze still cautious on the stranger. "Lawrence, you say?" Damascus raised an eyebrow, a distinct bizarre undertone of playfulness now in his tone. "A very good name for a goat, if I don't say so myself." Dimitri's curiosity won over caution. He leaned off the wall and towards Damascus, his head cocked to the side like a debating puppy. "What's your name?" Buttercup's chest tightened, but it was how Damascus lumbered to sit on the ground fully that made her stall once more. "I'm Damascus," he introduced, holding his massive hand out to the boy. "My name's Dimitri, but everyone calls me Dimi." He looked at Damascus' hand for a long contemplative moment, before he just grabbed two fingers and shook. Very cute. A tight smile upturned Damascus's lip. He gently shook back with his two fingers. "A pleasure to meet you, sir." Dimitri let go, his eyes flitting to Buttercup, who was now clutching the fabric of her dress under white knuckles. "How do you know Sissy?" His gaze flicked back to Damascus. Damascus's eyes never left the boy. "I'm gonna help her with something," he spoke slowly and carefully. The little boy's eyes furrowed, subconsciously moving closer to him. "Help with what?" Buttercup's heart felt like it was in a vice grip, but even if she wanted to say something, she had no response to that. How was she supposed to explain this situation to him without scarring him? Damascus rested his elbows on his thighs and leaned forward. "Well, that's a bit of a long story, but your sister needs help from a special lady far away, and I also need to go see this special lady, so we decided to go together." Buttercup felt a strange heat rise up from her heart. She hadn't lied to him. He hadn't made up some cheap excuse that a gullible young boy would have believed without question. Damascus was honest with him, and it only piled into her landfill of confusion. The boy's face creased with thought. He opened his mouth to ask a question when his eye got caught on the rope, and it was forgotten to a different curiosity. "What's that?" He pointed to the translucent green attachment that bound them to this situation. Damascus swallowed at that. His teeth tightened closed to a response that eluded him. He looked from the green tether around his wrist to the pure curiosity in the boy's eyes inside. Before he could fumble a response, Buttercup stepped forward, leaning down by the head of the bed beside Damascus. "It's so we don't lose each other, of course." Oh, that's sweet. Her tone was light and playful, saying it as though it was obvious. A small smile broke the boy's struggle to comprehend it all. "So you're going on an adventure?" Damascus and Buttercup exchanged a quick glance that said 1,000 words. The one that stood above all the uncertainty and distrust was plain and simple: acceptance. "Yeah, like an adventure." Buttercup managed a forced smile as she soothed back the boy's hair. His wonder soured to a concern. "How long will you be gone?" Buttercup choked on the words. The honey-coated eyes of Dimitri pierced her maternal armor. Her chest tightened as she sensed her own transparency, her uncertainty unmasked. She swallowed the lump in her throat and bit the bullet. "I don't know, Dimmy." Her voice broke off. Dimmy's head tilted as he watched her, the wheels spinning as he took her in. "It's okay, Sissy," he said quietly. He crawled to the edge of the bed and wrapped his arms around her neck. She tensed and closed her fingers, fighting desperately to keep her fear internal. "I'm fine, Dimmy. You know you don't have to worry about me. I'm going to miss you more than anything else." She held the back of his head, her hand gently stroking his hair. Damascus lowered his ever-stoic gaze to the floorboards. He shifted back to give them space, silently listening to the exchange. I'm gonna miss you too, Dimitri whispered, his head in her neck. "But it's okay to be scared. Going far away from home sounds scary. You don't have to pretend, Sissy." Her arms tightened around him. "I'm fine, just worried about you and Mama," she said in a hushed hushed, forcing her voice. She had in a hush, forcing her voice even. Dimitri pulled back to look her in the eye, his small hands on her shoulders. You don't worry about us. We'll be okay. Hayward is doing good work for Mr. Flanagan, and Ruby's gotten gooder at making dinner too. I like gooder. Wait, it's very sweet, Ghostly. It's a very like emotionally charged sweet scene. But I do like that you still have the kids say silly things like gooder. It keeps it in the world and keeps it in the character. And Mr. Ferdinand told Hayward that we could have his extra food at the end of the month for free. We will be okay. The tension that bounded her features loosened as she met his gaze. Her eyes stung with the salt of building tears she desperately didn't want to shed. The heartbreaking realization that he saw her clicked for the first time. Those pure, warm eyes of her mother remade were not oblivious. She squeezed her eyes shut and rested her forehead against his. I know. You take care of Mama for me, okay? She rasped. I already take care of Mama, he insisted excitedly. Of course, that's the most kid response I've ever heard. I already take care of her. I get her water when she can't get up. Ruby says I'm a big helper. She pulled him back into a hug. You're the best helper. Her words choked in her throat as her chest hitched. Dimitri wrapped his arms around her tightly, feeling the rigid tremor in her shoulders. Damascus swallowed, his eyes on the dry, cracked floorboards. He didn't need to look. He didn't need to look to feel the tension beside him, the inner turmoil that raged in the young women he hardly knew. Nice. I like that. It's a good line. The Buttercup swallowed a sob and held her breath, holding her brother like it was the last time. After a moment, she forced her tensed arms to release him. She avoided his eyes as she hauled him back to the bed, knowing a single glance would shatter her. Her lips pressed firmly to his forehead before she quickly moved back to the desk, her shaking hands fumbling to fold up the note and scrawl to the outside. Dimitri's bothered gaze fell upon Damascus, who had yet to look up. Take care of Sissy, Mr. Giant, he spoke in a whisper, his warm sights flicking to Buttercup. Damascus felt the floor fall out under his heart. He swallowed as he looked up and met those eyes. In an instant, he understood all too well why Buttercup crumbled like she did. All he could do was nod, his chest torn by forces he didn't understand. Buttercup dropped the quill back in the inkwell, leaving the furled note on the desk, waiting for the sunrise to be discovered. She tapped Damascus on the shoulder, urging him up. She didn't look at Dimitri as she spoke her last. I love you, Dimi. Her voice was frail and wavering. Damascus lumbered to his feet with a few creaks, glancing between the two of them. Love you, Sissy, he said quietly. She could feel his deep gaze on her, pulling at her to look back, burning her not to return. She forced her feet forward towards the door, though it felt like she was trudging through molasses. Damascus followed, though his eyes did drift back briefly to the child under the stairs. He watched as Dimitri laid back down, watching them go through the slits of the steps. Buttercup didn't allow herself to look back. She forced the door open and didn't stop until she was past the steps. Her feet stilled as they met the dirt, and she heard the door close behind her. The whistle of the wind and chirp of the crickets echoed in the emptiness within her. Nice. That's good. I like that. She remembered to breathe again, her lungs burning as she did it poorly. The back of her eyes ached with the tears she repressed. Her whole body wound around the raging sea of emotion. She was too lost in the maze of the mind to notice the creak of the porch and crunch of grass, but she wasn't so far gone that she didn't feel a heavy hand on her shoulder. Damascus swallowed before he spoke. They'll be all right. He lowered his lowered even voice in vain attempt to he lowered his even voice in a vain attempt to he lowered his even voice. He lowered his voice in a vain attempt at comfort. Yeah, he lowered. I assume he lowered his voice in a vain attempt at comfort. She couldn't shrug the weight of his hand off. She stepped away from him and let it fall. You can stow your attempts at sympathy. She tried to sharpen her voice, but the edge warped. His hand tightened at his side. We should move. We're pushing luck we don't have. His hardened gaze traveled back to the wood line. Wood line, avoiding her shuddering frame. Nice. Ghosty, don't try to understand. I know what I don't know what I was trying to say either. I think that's what you were trying to say. It's fine. I get it. Sometimes you start two different sentences. You just try to say a thing two different ways, and then they kind of mix over each other. But I got it. I got it. It's like most notes. Like once you get to the editing phase, a lot of this you can clean up, like word repetition, sentence repetition, trimming and cleaning. For now, you don't need to worry about that though. Lead the way. I'll be right behind you, she says. She spoke quietly, her tone quivering like a bowstring. Damascus didn't look back. He put his back to the town and put one foot in front of the other. The muscles that held his jaw clenched at soft sniffles and strangled sobs that followed at his behind him. But he never turned back. Oh, and there we go. That was I can see what you mean by misery. That is a hell of a sequence, Ghostly. Well done, though. Well done. It's you're very good at writing characters. You're definitely very good at writing sympathetic characters. But the emotional weight in this sequence is great. It definitely, you brought it all back around to Dimitri, which was good, since the story kind of starts with Dimitri. So I think, doesn't it? I know Dimitri's there very early in the story. I can't remember if we open with Dimitri, but I know he's in there early on. So I'm glad we've come back around and we get a little bit. Was the time skip worth it? It yes and no. Yes and no. I'll say I think it's worth it. Yes. Yeah. I think it's worth it, one, to bring it back to Dimitri's point of view, and kind of show Dimitri trying to figure out what's going on here. I do think his perspective needs to be in there. I do think you lose something very, very important if you keep it, like if you were to like approach it directly with just Damascus and Buttercup and then they talk to Dimitri. I think something very important is lost if you don't have a moment from Dimitri. I think but the time skip sets it up where I think if I turned on my like editor brain a little bit, like, and I'm thinking, and you have to remember I'm thinking about this cinematically, so I'm immediately going to think about this in like as a movie. But if I was thinking about this, I would probably go directly from them. I would probably not even... I think I would almost go directly into Dimitri's point of view as Buttercup enters at night. I think I would almost just do that. That's my honest take there. I think if there was something more there that made... All right. That made him catch something that comes into play later. Maybe that Dimitri noticed something that Buttercup doesn't notice about Damascus. There is kind of their interplay shows Damascus as a character, and definitely is kind of grounds Buttercup kind of being like, okay, I like, it's a good guy. I mean, everything the dude's doing is showing that he's generally not a bad person. Let's see. I really like the juxtaposition of Dimitri being scared of Damascus and then cutting to Damascus, who is also kind of scared. Yeah, no, that works well. I do like that. I do like that because he's worried about getting caught and also discovering the kid. Yeah, but like, I mean, for now I would keep it. I don't think I would cut it out, but I would see if there's something you can add to it. See if there's something you can add to it from Dimitri's point of view. Just something, just give it a little something. There's something I kind of like the idea about a kid being able to notice something that particularly a stressed out Buttercup wouldn't notice, particularly about Damascus. That like a very minor detail that a kid could fixate on, that then could come into play later or be involved or have something to do with Damascus as a character. That would be my only note. That's something like that. I don't know what that would be, but yeah, something like that would be my only major thing, is that like it's a clever thing, but I don't think it sticks around long enough to thoroughly. I'm not totally sold on it yet. I think it works with what you're trying to do. I think you need to have Dimitri's point of view, but I want something else to kind of justify the repeat, the playing it back over again. Because you have to remember that's a tool, that is a very powerful tool you're using. Do you think Dimitri was too emotionally mature? No, I don't think so. I mean, kids kind of do that. They do have this like kind of, and they do it. There's a tragedy to it because they generally don't understand what's happening, and they almost always do not understand the scale of what is occurring. But they kind of do have this sort of like, I've seen kids do that where they like, they pat you and they're like, it's okay, like it'll be okay. They like, we take comfort in that because there's something very like, we find a sort of profundity to it, but it also comes from a place that the kids themselves do, like a kid themselves does not really understand what's occurring, but we still kind of project this sort of this validation and comfort and kindness that comes from kids, that kids can have, because they can have this very like unrestricted, unbarriered emotional response to a thing. So having them try and comfort you is kind of the comfort that you're getting from them, even though they don't really understand what's occurring or why. It's the fact that the kid themselves is trying to make you feel better. So I think you nail it on the head with that. I don't think he's too emotionally mature. I think you managed to nail a unique thing about kids, but I don't think because I don't think he acted super emotionally mature. He just kind of trusted Buttercup, which makes sense, which he would trust Buttercup as his old, like, they're always going to inherently trust your decision generally because you're the adult, and then they're going to kind of rationalize it. Okay, I was just wondering if he properly read as a young child. No. A big ick for me is when a child acts like an adult. No, I feel you. I understand that. Yeah, that is a big, for me, it is a big telltale sign. But he read like a kid. He just read like a sympathetic kid. Because remember, kids are different. There's some kids that are not gonna act like that, and there's some kids that are. But he did not act like an adult. I don't think he acted like an adult. So I think you nailed that. I think you did a good job with that. Let's see here. Poison Dart. I know. I'm just catch up with Poison Dart here. I know my world has multiple storylines that that connect to the main story, so I feel like they might be overly confusing. I mean, that can happen. I mean, look at Cloud Atlas. Cloud Atlas is just tons of storylines and subplots and plots layered all around each other. It's just how you do it. And the more practice you get at being able to make it cleaner and clearer, you can have as many subplots as you want, as long as they're all building towards a cohesive idea. Then it's fine. Yeah, that's a good layer cake of subplots that you really keep your pace moving. Exactly. Yeah, I agree with Cryptid. Yeah, you can have as many or as little as is needed to kind of get the point across. Ghostly, he's a little, yeah. He's a sweetheart. He's a sweet kid. He wants Buttercup to not be scared. And the one line that is a very emotional mature, but I've literally also seen kids do this, where they kind of like tap you on the back and say it's okay to be scared. I've actually seen a kid who was an older brother do that to his younger brother, and the kid was like 8 years old. saying that. Like it's normal because lots of times it means they've heard it before and they're just repeating it. So I think you're fine with that. All right, we're gonna start the break timer. That is a break, everybody. Welcome back. If you were out there writing sprints, we just wrapped up reading Ghostly's story, which is absolutely fantastic. It's always a delight getting to read your stuff, Ghostly. I think it's well known at this point in stream lore that we adore getting to read. It's always a delight to get to read Ghostly stories. So many subplots is like low key. Maybe enough subplots could become the stories. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Poison Dart. Yeah, that's so it's always about mining out which ones aren't quite there, and those are always good subplots. The ones that aren't generally good enough to make their own stories, but they're just short of that, is like a good robust subplot. I thought we needed Buttercup to tie up the ends of her life before the story really took off. I think that's a smart move. Along with getting a sprinkler of Damascus showing a bit more humanity. I think that's a smart move, Ghostly. I mean, Damascus is a super sympathetic character. Damascus has shown nothing but humanity this whole time, so I think I think at this point, I don't even know why they think he's a monster outside of the way he looks. Because he has been nothing but a delight this whole time. He's just a little grumpy. He's grumpy, but the grumpy is charming. But he's definitely got, he's definitely insightful. You're giving a lot of good insights there too, which I think is good. All right, we got ads. All right, we got ads, folks. Ads coming in. So for those of you who get hit by ads, I apologize, but we will be back. Let's see here. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'd say general fantasy. I mean, even I guess it could be YA. I don't even know if it's a YA fan. I don't know if I've ever read YA fantasy, so I don't know if I can even say that. It also just makes sense that character-wise for her to check in. Yeah, it brings everything full circle. I think you need it. I actually think if you didn't have them going back, I think that would be a problem with how much time you spend in the town. Let's see here. Let's see. Like the main subplot is human, demi-human, and monster relationships. A lot of the humans in my world believe in human supremacy, and that is like a big part of the story about fixing relation. Oh, okay, gotcha. Between species. Okay, yeah. I mean that makes sense. Then you would probably want. I mean that definitely like hierarchies of sort of forms of racism and hierarchies of like supremacy among species is a beefy subplot for sure. So I can see what you mean by like there's a lot going on there. Okay, I wasn't fully paying attention. I'm balancing the stream, working on an outline, watching Burn Notice. Oh, nice. You're watching Burn Notice? Very nice. I remember when that was a lot of people's introductions to Bruce Campbell. But it was nice to see Bruce Campbell finally get a win that wasn't just a schlocky horror movie that I grew up on. Ghostly Manuscript thought tonight is slice of life. Yep. No worries. Do what you gotta do. Get the work done. That doesn't sound overwhelming at all. Yeah, right? Yeah, there's a lot going on there, Poison Dart. What's the swab command for? Swab. That is usually before we start our sprints, I do a command called like work, like get to work, because we kind of have a theme about this being like a ship. And then I swab is essentially just like, back to work, essentially. Back to getting the work done. Since this is generally a co-working stream. That is for, yeah, there we go. That's when we start sprints. Plus the romance subplots because cute relationship. Yes, of course. Poison Dart. Cute romances, of course. Much needed. Nice. Perfect comfort rewatch, yeah. I call it general fantasy with the intent for it to be palatable for both children, adults, and in-betweens. Ghostly's attempt at the Princess Bride, yeah. Yep. For all ages, we call that. I just saw the Jersey Mike's ad starring Danny DeVito. It was good. Oh, really? Oh, I think I've seen that ad. I think I have seen that. That's funny. That is good. Danny DeVito. just being the insane weirdo that he is. Okay, so it sounds like it'll come down to character depth and complexity, so focus on that as you go and you'll do great. Yeah, that makes sense. Fair, I haven't done that many relationships yet. I've only done one, but I have goals. Yay, goals. Yeah, go for it. You got this. You got this, Poison Dart. Just go for it. Just knock them out. And remember, you don't have to use all of them. You can always just, like, have a bunch of them and then kind of pick and choose which ones you think work best. Ghostly, that's my line. Hello, that is a line that was termed by you, Ghostly. The swab line is a Ghostly line. Young adult feels like a good middle ground. Yeah. We definitely. The thing about genre is, it's definitely like a branding thing. It's an advertising and branding thing. None of these things like really exist. If you go back, like, Ursula K. Le Guin hated the term young adult fantasy and young adult fiction for the Earthsea. She didn't write Earthsea to be intended for those. And they're really not. They are just approachable by, like, you could be a young person and approach the material. Same thing with like Roald Dahl, some of that stuff, or like the Wizard of Oz books. They're just kind of it's the hyperfixation of genres in order to sell things and advertise things. That's pretty much what they exist for. I wouldn't be too concerned. I know this might be different for publishing, but I know for when I'm working on like screenplays and stuff, I think about trying to like genreify it much later. Not usually when I'm writing it. I just think it's chasing ghosts. If we chase genre too much in the initial stages. I think you should just let it be whatever the idea is, and then you can try to categorize it later. It's kind of like I feel like it's too limiting to start with. When in doubt, make a weird choice. Do the weird thing. Exactly, Cryptid. Make it weird. If we all know what is the motto of this stream should absolutely be make it weird. Always make it weird. Everything is better when it's weird. Definitely make it weird. I made sure to age up my characters from adult category. Cyberpunk is generally much darker, than YAs, and I tended to get dark. Yeah, that makes sense. I need Feldway to end up with someone who I don't know my favorite character. If he doesn't get a good romance, it's gonna feel wrong. That makes sense. I'm proud of the things I've canned. You should be, Ghostly. You should be very proud. It worked for Fallout, possibly the weirdest show to come out in a minute with now 17 Emmy nods. Yeah, and Fallout, the source material for Fallout is super weird. I'm just glad they kept the weirdness of it. Man, the blaseness about incest in that, like, cause like the whole thing about incest in like Game of Thrones makes sense, because it's coming from like historical, like blood lineages and family lineages, but just the casual nature of it at the beginning of Fallout as just a practice, which is from the first two Fallout games, deeply funny. Definitely made me laugh. Very good. Very, very, very charming for sure. Yeah, no, I watched it when I went to China. I told you I was gonna watch it. I downloaded it and watched it on my iPad on the flight to China. Maybe he might end up with Cersei, but not. Cersei's always a good name. Always a good name to name anyone after that beautiful island witch. I'm immensely proud of you, Ghostly, kicking butt. Yeah, you're nailing it, Ghostly. Don't chase me. I can't float that fast. Nice. Do what feels right for the character in the story. Maybe for now it's a pre-relationship slow burn. Maybe his love happens later. Yep. I feel that the genre gives me good guidelines for where to start, but I think it should include to customize. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Ghostly, you're incorporeal. We can't catch you. We literally cannot catch a Ghostly. They made it weirder, Twilight. Did they make it weird? I don't... Okay, all right. They definitely made it weirder than Fallout 3, but I don't know if they made it weirder than Fallout 1 and 2. But they did make it weird, which I appreciated. Yes, yeah. Twilight, tell me everything. I need all of your thoughts. The dialogue in that show is fucking exquisite. The SAG strike nods they cooked. Yeah, it definitely... 100% that's true. That is true. Yes, yeah. It's definitely yeah. And of course the casual carrying of the head and all that. It was good. Yeah, I have my complaints with it for sure. But I for how far it went, it's definitely the best show I've seen of the year for sure. Um, of this year, absolutely this year, definitely. To be fair, though, I have not watched Shogun yet. I am getting ready to watch Shogun. So Shogun might displace Fallout as my favorite show of the year, even though I don't watch a lot of TV. But right now, Fallout is definitely the best show of the year. So, um, okay, let's see here. The Gulper. Speaking of Cersei, you also said you might listen to that on the plane. Did you? Not all of it. You're talking about Cersei the musical, right? You're talking about that particular bracket of the musical. So I have not. I have not yet. I unfortunately was not able to download it in time before I had to get on the plane, and apparently flights to Hawaii do not have internet. I guess when you fly that far over the Pacific Ocean, the Wi-Fi does not work. But it somehow works when you fly to China. Don't ask me, because you fly over the same ocean. Not sure how that works. But no, I have not listened to it yet, Ghostly, but I will listen to it. It will be listened to. Okay. All right. My voice is failing. So we're going to dive into a sprint. That's fine. I think you might like the Underworld Saga better anyway. Yeah, I want to do the ones the top ones you'd mentioned. Um, so I'll get to those. Don't worry, Ghostly. But I will listen to them. I promise. As much as I'm telling you, it's still a little too musically for me. Um, I'm going to grin and bear it and get through it. It's still a little too sing songy. Yeah, it hurts me. It really does. Um, but I will get through it. I will get through it. Let's see. She's right-handed. She's right hand or she's his right hand or she is right-handed. Oh, I got you. What you're saying? Okay. All right. Um, Funny story. Walton was in Thailand filming White Lotus when he came back completely for forgetting Fallout had released. Poor man bamboozled by people finding the ghoul attractive, which is very funny. Yeah, man, never underestimate what people find attractive. I it's that is a whole thing, particularly on the internet. So, definitely, if you're gonna do a weird thing, sometimes people find that attractive. Anyway, I know it pains you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ghostly. Love a good himbo. Definitely take it at his own pace. Okay, Ghostly needs to eat. All right, Ghostly, go have dinner. Enjoy your dinner. All right, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and run this sprint. We will actually be sprinting and working together. So music's gonna go up. Mic is gonna go down. So I'll be off mic. And we'll go ahead and get these words done. This will be the last sprint of the day. So we'll be calling it after this. But for everybody out there, I hope the words treat you well. Ghostly, have a lovely night. Take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. And we will catch you next time. Hopefully, if you can't make it during the week, because I know you got your theater things, we'll try to have an occasional weekend stream for you. Since you got a busy weeks coming up. All right, everybody. Happy writing. We'll catch you on the other side. And away we go. Alrighty, everybody. That is the end of that sprint. He's currently the antagonist. Nice, yeah. I'm assuming it's pronounced Duvaric. I mean, I know since you were asking whether or not it was hard to pronounce, but Duvaric is how I would read it. So hopefully that's correct. Yeah. We got some new awesome folks in here. Coming in, working on some cool stories. We got Poison Dart making some amazing, like dragon demon hybrids, like in the hierarchy of like their houses. It's very cool. It sounds like Game of Thrones, but with like, you know, dragons and demons. It's very cool. Very, very extra. I dig it. And Tagrixis is doing it. Duvaric. Oh, Duvaric. Oh, interesting. You're doing Ver, V-A. Okay, so you're doing hard A, Ve, or Varic. I'm assuming a hard A. Yeah, dual makes sense. Dual Varic. Okay. I guess it's hard to, like, specify whether or not you want that to be a hard A or a soft A. Because you could do dual Var, which would be soft. And do Varic. Varic would be a hard A. So if you want it hard A, dual Varic. I guess dual Varic would make sense because it has a kind of a more Eastern European, like an almost like Russian-y, like Slavic vibe to it. Japanese names feel a bit more natural, plus they generally sound better. Yeah, I agree with that. I think so. Yeah. I mean, like, European names generally come from a variety of sources, but they could definitely, depending on how they're mixed, they can be all over the place. Either one works. I like the name, but I'm not settled on the A pronunciation. Oh, okay, yeah. You can also just leave it up to, however people say it. Never give them an answer. It's like I mean, like, George Lucas was notorious for that in Star Wars. I mean, absolutely notorious for not really telling people how anything was pronounced, and then people just started, like, even in the movies, pronouncing it totally like Han and Han. Like, Lando always calls him Han. Han! And then it's like, no one cares. It's just like, it's fine. Anyway, sadly, that is going to be the last sprint of the evening, everybody. I am still recovering from COVID, so I've not quite back up to my usual energy reserves going for full 4 sprints. So we will be calling it quits this evening, but I will be around during the weeks. It looks like I do have a D&D game on Tuesday, so I'm not sure if there's going to be a stream on Tuesday. If there's not a stream on Tuesday, it'll be on Wednesday. We'll see. We'll figure it out. But Thursday and Friday, for sure, there will be our usually programmed streams, although we will be moving it closer to the 5 p.m. slot. So it'll be a little bit start at 5 p.m. Pacific time, is the plan. So for now, we'll see about Tuesday, but definitely back Thursday and Friday, trying to get back into the regular schedule, and I got to figure out scheduling around Dungeons and Dragons and all that nonsense. You stream for 3 hours. I know. Yeah, we're getting back up there. I'm used to trying to get close to 4. I like having a nice 4-hour stream, but we'll get back to it eventually. But thanks for the well wishes. I will rest up. For all of our new folks, it has been a blast having you. I hope to see you next time. And for everything that you're working on and writing, it all sounds great, and I can't wait to see what you all come up with. If I ever succeed saying it, they'll probably take it as canon. There you go. That's how you do it, Grixis. That's how you do it. All right, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Love you all. We'll see you on the flip side. And take care of yourselves. All right, everybody?